Yo, what's up? This is Valoramous. In today's DJ tutorial, I want to discuss my planning process for private gigs and events, private gigs and DJ events. So the first step in planning a private DJ event is to receive the 5 W's. So who, what, where, when, and why. So you want to know who, you want to know how many people you expect to be in that audience, and who this event is for. You want to know what it is. Is it a wedding? Is it a dance? Is it a private banquet? And you want to understand what your responsibilities are inherent with the what. You want to know where that gig is going to be located, so you need the address. You want to know when. You want to know the overall time frame, so you can backwards plan, and then plan when you should appear or show up to the venue to begin setting your equipment. And then you want to know the why, because this is a special occasion. If you've been hired to DJ a special occasion, you need to tie into their vibe, to their event, and you are there to provide them not only the sound and music, but also with some entertainment for the night. So once you know those 5 W's, then you can start your planning process. Now, the most important aspect for me is understanding the equipment, and then understanding the room, the acoustics, and you do this with reconnaissance and communications with the organizer, with the person that hired you, with the contractor. So whoever hired you, you're going to not negotiate right away, but you need to find information. You understand those 5 W's and you understand your hours. This will drive your rate, but the room itself will also drive your rate, because in some cases, these banquet halls may have more equipment there, lighting, a PA system, speakers all around the venue, to where you don't need to bring that equipment yourself, and then that can actually reduce the rate, and you can save money for the client, and then that client will actually appreciate your service in doing so. So this information gathering stage is critical, because that will determine which equipment you should bring. So as you can see behind me, I have uplights. These lights could be used in a private event, or they may not be used in a private event, because if a private banquet hall already has built-in uplights all around the venue room, then I may only need this at my actual station for the facade, and I won't need to bring extra uplights around the venue to create an overall aesthetic. So after you get past this information gathering stage, you can set your rate, and then you need to sign a contract. So you can go online and find templated DJ service contracts. I would recommend you have a bad weather clause in there. I recommend that you dictate the payment, maybe 50% now, 50% later after the event is done. If you're going to go with 100%, that 100% needs to be paid on the night of the gig, after the conclusion of the gig. So as soon as you are done playing that gig, you need to have that check in your hand. And if you do not, you need to have a plan, and that needs to be documented in writing. So that is really up to you, and I'm not going to cover details of a contract. That's beyond the scope of this video, because this is about the planning. But the contract is actually part of your overall planning process. Now you have the reconnaissance. If you've never been to this venue, you will have a little bit of a tougher time, because you need to probably physically see this venue in person. If you don't have time, maybe it's too far away. I know I've done an event where it was too far away. You at a minimum need to either call the venue and ascertain the specifics in that room, such as how many speakers are in the room, what kind of speakers, what is the placement, how many tables, what is the max capacity, where will I be located. I see the pictures on your Google Maps, but I can't really determine where I will be located. Am I at the left end of the stage or the right end of the stage? Am I back in the corner, or am I front and center? There's a stage there. Am I be actually on the stage? What is the power situation? Where are the power outlets? That dictates which sort of extension cords that you will need to bring. All this is information. At a minimum, you must do a map reconnaissance. If you do a map reconnaissance, you will know how to physically drive to the actual venue, where to park, and where you can actually store your equipment. But I do recommend you do an in-person reconnaissance, because your in-person reconnaissance can answer a lot of these questions that the person that hired you will not be able to answer, the venue events planner may not be able to answer, because they're not the DJ. This is really stuff that only you can answer as a DJ. So by arriving at the venue in advance, I would recommend a minimum of a month in advance if you have time, because if you need to order any equipment, you'll have time to get this equipment delivered to you. So right now, with shipping delays in 2022, this is going to be a bit of a challenge, but you need to have some sort of a plan in place to where if you need to buy something, you have a plan to acquire that equipment prior to the gig, whether through rental or through a garage sale or on Facebook Marketplace, etc. This in-person reconnaissance will also help you because it can provide shortcuts and options for you. So for example, if there is a closet with a lock, maybe you could ask the venue, hey, do you mind if I pre-position my equipment here in advance, say the night prior, that way the day of the actual event, or a couple nights prior, that way the day of the actual event, all you need to do is just arrive at the venue in the appropriate attire and then bring your equipment out from that closet or from that storage area. Now if you don't have to do that, now if there is no storage facility on site, you will need to bring all this equipment with you in your actual vehicle and with or without a trailer. And my recommendation, depending on the venue, is to arrive a couple of hours prior to the actual start time for the music. I'm not going to give you an exact time, but 30 minutes or an hour is probably not going to be appropriate because you need to set up your equipment, which could take you a minimum of an hour depending on how much equipment you need to set up. And then you need to do a sound check. And you want to do this before the guests are arriving. So you really need to do this several hours in advance. It could be 2 hours, it could be 3 hours, it could be 4 hours before the music will actually go live. If you get there early in that afternoon for an evening event, it'll actually be better because you can set up the structure of your actual gig, not your controller or your turntables or your CDJs and your laptop. That you will set that up last, but you can at least get, say, the pylons in place. You can get your table in place. You can get a lot of your cables in place. People are usually not going to steal that sort of stuff. You don't want to set up your laptop, obviously, and then leave, but especially if there's venue staff there, the venue staff can also help watch your equipment as well, too. So when you get to the venue, be nice, make liaisons, make friendships, ask the staff where you should set up your equipment, and then begin setting up your equipment. And this should be done well in advance to where the actual event attendees are not watching you as you set up your equipment during cocktail hour. So once you set up your equipment, run that sound check, and ideally this is done a minimum hour prior to the beginning of that cocktail hour. And then that way you'll be able to pack away your excess equipment and better organize yourself. And then you'll have time to decompress, breathe, and then you can come back and start your set on the appropriate hour. So if you plan this appropriately with gathering the 5 W's, gathering all the information about the event, gathering information about the venue, doing a reconnaissance, minimum map reconnaissance, maximum in-person reconnaissance, call the venue, ask questions, find out which equipment is already present, which equipment you need to bring, which equipment you do not need to bring, where you need to set up, where are the power outlets, what is the voltage if you're playing in a foreign country. For my Americans out there, when you go abroad, there's different voltage, and a lot of equipment is dual voltage, but you need to have the little adapters. So there's a lot of checks that you need to run as a DJ, and if you're doing a private event, you will be blamed for if the sound is wrong. So it's about planning, it's about preparation, and then also about contingencies. So knowing what to do in the event of a mistake. But in many cases with these private banquet halls, they now have mixers on site. You can simply plug in your system into that mixer. And in some cases they have the speakers already set up. You can plug into their mixer, which will plug into the speaker setup. So then really what you are worried about is your table, your station, everything that you see here, maybe some lights of a DJ facade. You worry about your individual aesthetic and not the aesthetic of the overall room. If you're worrying about the overall room, it becomes much different. But even with the room, you will still want to, at a minimum, take a walk around the room during your sound check and test your music. Where does it sound loud? Where does it sound quiet? Is there too much bass in this corner of the room because the bass is building up? Is it too screeching over here? Hey, there's a big speaker right here in front of the podium, in front of the stage, and the guest of honor is going to be sitting right there. You may want to turn down that speaker volume. That way, that guest of honor is not blasted with music as soon as you start playing the more energetic portions of your set. So there you have it. That's just a few tips and considerations for running a private DJ event. This is the planning, the preparation stage only, but prior planning prevents piss poor performance. So if you like this content, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you.
A resting place from a fool's disgrace in carousels with lots of bells. Antarctica, where secrets are awaken our minds. An ancient space, we take a place to travel through a cosmic gate and elevate a sacred name to conjure up chimes. The embrace.